All right, guys, this is Guzman here from Guzman's Random Review, and we got a special episode. I think I'm going to call this Guzman's Random Review Straight Pipe for Straight Talk because I've got Dave Isaac. He's got an awesome Facebook group page. Dave, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Dave, tell me where you're from, who you are, and why are we having this awesome conversation?
All right. Name's Dave Ballant. Isaac's actually my middle name. From Las Vegas,
Okay.
Nevada. Got out here via the Air Force. 14-year Air Force veteran, now contractor, but that's how I ended up here in Vegas.
Living the dream.
And then this page, myself, Aaron LaSure, and Tony George, we wanted to set up a page just specifically for CVTs, mainly modded CVTs or tuned CVTs, just to give people a little bit more support for it, because as you know, the general WRX STI pages, they love to talk trash on the CVT because people don't understand it. And then the other CVT groups that are out there that have like a lot of members, the problem with those groups are you get the same generic questions over and over and over again for people who just got the car. So like this group is more like a specialty niche type group for people who are modded, tuned. That way we can help one another and provide insight to one another. And that was the main reasoning behind this.
Cool. What's the name of that Facebook group page? You got it off the top of your head?
The Facebook page is the Tuned Subaru CVT Frequently Asked Question and Community.
There you go. Because, yeah, we wanted to do this live, folks, but, it's our first time meeting, our first time doing this. We want to make sure all the, the crazy bugs of being live don't happen to stop the communication, the conversation, because Dave and I, we've gone back and forth on the group page, just chit-chatting. I show my videos, and then he's always got these awesome technical questions from newbies or guys who are just having that regular issue. And like you said, he keeps getting the same questions. And me, I'm like, hey, check out my YouTube channel, or I give one or two answers. But he always comes back with, by the way, here's the whole SOA instructions, description as to why this happens, which is super duper helpful in any kind of car community. So gotta thank you on that, man. That's like, I make I don't know, the Tim Allen home improvement video version of it, and you've got like the whole technical. The reason why this happened is because he was driving too fast, or he didn't have the right oil, or the CVT fluid was incorrect. So the one major thing that we have with a 2016 Subaru WRX model CVT, one of the issues that we always have is something that I think should have been recalled, and it's not technically recalled, but it's the seals around the CVT, which is why we keep getting you get this guy, oh, hey guy, I just bought a new or used WRX CVT, and I've got this diaper stain, I've got this wet stain on the bottom of my car.
Really?
Guys, is it time for me to sell? And go ahead, man, take the floor, because you've seen my video and we've had
Yeah.
plenty of discussions on this.
The biggest thing with this whole leak thing, like everyone, I mean, you see it on so many other groups, not just our groups, but it's even worse on the other two CVT related groups.
Should have got a manual.
Yep, people get this leak and they think it's the end of the world. I'm like, granted, yes, Subaru screwed up on a global level with all those models that are listed. Like if you look at that TSB and you see all those models and model years, they know they screwed up. They know they should have issued a recall way back when, maybe like in 2016. But they let it roll and let it ride. And the problem is Subaru, they're, Japanese company, they're a proud company. They don't want to fall on their sword and have that global embarrassment of, we're doing this mass recall on all of our CVT based vehicles because we use crappy seals and sealant and they're leaking. So I mean, that this whole little TSB thing is like, okay, if you happen to see it, bring it in and we'll fix it for you, as long as we don't find out you're tuned or anything like that. But I mean, it honestly should be a recall, but they're too proud to admit they screwed up. So I mean, it is what it is where we're at right now with it.
Now, what's a TSB? You mentioned a TSB, for those who don't know.
A TSB is a technical safety bulletin. So the biggest thing that a lot of these guys don't realize, like a TSB is just a heads up to a dealership service department that says, hey, if this vehicle comes in and the customer is saying, hey, I'm noticing fluid around my, my transmission or whatever, that TSB is going to let that service advisor or whatever know, hey, yeah, we've heard of this. This is what's causing it. This is the fix for it. Here's the parts list, what's required, the charge number to charge it to, that sort of thing. The biggest misconception that a lot of these people don't understand is a TSB is not a recall. So if you're tuned and they find out you're tuned, they have every right to deny you because it's not a safety recall where they can just say, hey, put your car back to stock, bring it in, we'll do this recall for you. They can just straight up deny you for that. So that's just something that guys got to realize.
So one of the things I've learned in my experience of owning my car, and off camera we were talking about this, that I basically rebuilt my 2016 model. I've put a brand new IAG Stage 1 motor, short block. I've got a brand new 2019 CVT transmission, and I did a video on that. Basically because I knew that this was an issue. So my video, it'll be linked in the description below, and so will the Facebook group page for anybody who wants to join that has a CVT. Either way, the thing is, so in my journey, I'm in here in Northern Virginia, DMV area, if anyone knows what that means. Either way, the thing is, I go to my local Subaru dealership that's like 5 minutes away, and I know that I'm all modded and everything, and a lot of people have seen my car, and they're like, yeah, we know who he is. The moment I show up, I basically like get blackballed by the manager, all right, the mechanics manager, whatever you call him, right? He sees my car and he's like, yeah, you have all these leaks, but you're gonna get denied due to SOA warranty issues due to modifications. And they said, hey, you can call SOA, Subaru of America, here's the 1-800 number, and they're just going to deny you. Which I was like, you just looked at the car and you saw all the pretty colors and you thought, hey, that's why you have that issue. So I said, all right, cool, I'm going to call Subaru of America. And literally, I call up Subaru of America and I just say, hey, I'm a WRX owner. I have a YouTube channel. I'm not famous or anything. I just have a YouTube channel. I do some stuff. I'm having this issue. Legitimately, the guy on the phone was like, oh no, we love you WRX owners because you guys make us popular, you guys make us famous, you guys, what can we help you with? So from my experience, SOA was super helpful. I've seen on our page, on the group page, that some people didn't have that kind of I don't know, pleasantry.
Yeah.
But either way, the guy basically backed me up like he was a mob boss or something. He's like, look, you take your car back in there and you tell him I sent you, let him know, tell me what they said isn't making things happen, and we'll step in.
Yeah.
Well, since I got a bad taste in my mouth from that dealership, I went to another dealership that was literally 5 minutes away from that location, and they immediately said, okay, we'll touch it. And they were fine with SOA, and they said, oh, actually it was your front timing belt area, I don't know, the front end of the motor, the seal. I think you know what it is better, but anyway, they had to drop the motor and do the front seals, and they said your seals were bad. That's really what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I was like, all right, cool, it's covered under warranty. Yeah. And they were like, yep, modifications don't cover that. So that's when I got into TSBs. And I was like, okay, cool. So they showed me that. I was like, yeah, we'll cover that. We'll fix it. I was like, all right, perfect. Then I come, and they were like, hey, after about a month, let us know if you see any more leaks. So I lifted up the car literally a week later, and I was already seeing leaks, not as bad as before, but in the same area. And I said, hey, I did some more research. I think this CVT seal needs to get replaced. And they were like, well, we already replaced your seals. We don't know. And they kept looking at it, and they're like, well, no, that's what it really is, and here's the service saying it. And they're like, well, we could clean it. And
yeah.
like, well, this is covered under warranty. What's your problem? So as I was on your page writing out this issue, whatever, a mechanic helped me out. And this is the guy who's still my master mechanic, who recently did a great job swapping out my motor, and he found the bearing that I smashed. And he looked at it, and he saw everything that I did. He saw my video, and he was instantly like, yeah, you need a new CVT. He went in there, wrote it up. He's a master mechanic, a Subaru master mechanic, and he had no problems. But what backed him up was all the information that I gave him, and the fact that I didn't have like a CVT cooler connected to it and anything touching the CVT, so that his CVT or his Subaru warranty inspector guy couldn't come in and say, yep, his modifications is what caused the CVT issue.
Yeah.
Which we all know is BS.
Yeah.
So either way, he was able to go in there and get me a new one within a couple of days and swap it out. So after that, I put the video on and I let everyone know, look, if you do it right and you have everything shown, and I kept the documentation, which everybody, you should keep documentations of everything you do when you're modding. It'll help in down the road. So that's what happened with me, and that's how I got that CVT fixed. And I got a friend in the process, because I spent a total. This is the first time I'm going to divulge this, but $7,000 in labor, parts, and getting the whole thing done of my stage 1 IAG block swap.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that got to do it.
Yeah.
Which I know for some people, they're like, oh, I would have done it at my house in my front yard or whatever like that. I just have the benefit of saying I had a Subaru master mechanic do it, who was able to tear it apart, and then also say, hey, this is the best part I like about why I did it this way, because there were so many parts that actually broke in the process because they never get moved. You know, the regular factory plastic parts or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So he had them there, and if he didn't, I was able to order them and bring them to him, which made everything go smoothly. So I got a brand new engine build and everything, and that worked out in the end. But it's interesting that as many times as we've answered this question, the question still keeps popping up, and you have a lot of detailed information on there.
Yeah, that's the goal. And like the biggest thing, like when you're dealing with dealership, like I said, prior to this WRX, I've owned nothing but trucks. I was big into the off-road truck scene. I mean, I'm talking having long-traveled suspension trucks, probably with like 20K worth of suspension on it. Rode like a caddy in the desert. You could go like 95, 100 miles an hour through the desert and you wouldn't feel anything. So like this is my first car that I've had ever since I was like 16 years old. So, but I mean, as far as the mod game and everything goes, I mean, it's the same thing. Cars, trucks, you know. It's a little different with trucks because, you know, most people, if you're going into off-roading, overlanding, that sort of thing, you know, it's more about suspension upgrades, and you're not like always going to go super fast when you're going rock crawling and stuff like that. So it's mainly about tires and suspension, but like dealing with warranty type stuff, it's all the same. Cars, trucks, it's all about how you approach the dealer with it. The more information, more informed you are about the problem, the better chances you are of having them fix it. If you just go in there and say, you know, my transmission's acting funny, or I noticed fluid on my transmission, you know, chances are, you know, they're going to give you the runaround or try to point out mods and stuff like that, and that's where you can run into problems.
Yeah, and one of the things I learned is that one of the main reasons for the kickback from the dealerships is a little more business. You got to be a little more I don't know, savvy. You got to understand how business work in the car dealership realm. And I was like, well, I think it's like McDonald's. Not everybody knows that McDonald's is a franchise. What's that mean? Is somebody gets a license to run the McDonald's and all that stuff.
Yep.
Well, Subaru is the same way. Just because it says Guzman's Subaru dealership doesn't mean, you know, Big Subaru owns a piece of that. Or they get a fee. They get a license off of that. They get a percentage off of that. So when there's a warranty claim, the dealerships don't like that because they lose money on that.
Yep,
they don't make money. They make more money on your oil change than they do depending on warranty issues. So, you know, you go in to get a warranty thing fixed, and it's definitely a warranty issue. You know, the manager, the owner, whatever, he's slapping his head and he's like, oh my goodness, now I got to wait for Subaru to pay us back whatever the warranty issue claim is, which is why they hate dealing with modifiers or whatever, because now they're gonna have to go back and forth with this dude or girl who has this car. It's a warranty claim, then it's a he said she said, then it's a do the paperwork, somebody's got to file the paperwork, then it's got to get filed with Subaru, and then they have to write a check to that Guzman's Subaru dealership, which could take a couple of months. And it may not be, you know, the time of the tech's worth, you know what I mean? So when I heard all of that, I'm like, okay, I get the money side of it, but at the same time, on the customer service side, you know, right now with the way our generations are, the more customer service you give, the more people come back to you.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think Subaru has always done a good job with customer service, you know, with the loving of pets and everything. And it's a family car, and let's go outside, you know, that whole thing. But yeah, so CVTs, man, it's a So right now I got so moving on from the CVT part. Um,
Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to mention, like when you're
oh, go
talking
ahead.
about those dealerships and everything, the other thing most people don't realize is those service advisors, they work off commission. So
Oh
like what you
yeah, it's a
said,
team.
when you come in with a warranty, they're not making commission off that. You know, the mechanics in the back, they don't care. They're getting paid hourly or salary based on whatever their skill level of their mechanic rating is. So I mean, to them, they don't care. Warranty work is whatever. But those service advisors, they're all commission based.
Well, at least here, from what I heard, it's a trickle down. So you've got like one manager, right? So you got the service advisor or whatever, but then you've got like the guy who rings you in, and then he's got two mechanics. Because let's say there's like 8 mechanics in there.
Mm.
He doesn't have all the 8 mechanics. He has like two mechanics or whatever that work for him. So that guy gets a piece of the pie, which trickles down to his mechanics. So it's kind of like almost being a waiter,
Gotcha.
you know,
Got you. Yeah.
and your busters and stuff. Yeah. So the piece of pie, yeah, he gets the mechanics do get a salary or whatever, especially if it's a master or regular or whatever, but they also get a piece of the big deal. Like my deal of the 7 grand, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, 7 grand was from buying from IAG, and then the mechanic parts and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it was like somewhere around 3,500 from actual build in the dealership. A piece of that went to my mechanic and the guy he works for, and he gets his whatever. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it's all money. It's all numbers.
Oh yeah.
You know, so that's understandable. But for CVT owners out there, CVTs are actually. How about this, Dave? How many times do you go drag racing with your WRX? And what kind of we haven't even asked you what kind of WRX you have. What do you got?
I got a 2019 WRX
CVT.
CVT.
And what have you done to it?
Oh man, let's see. I've done about every appearance mod you can think of. Just for the big things, like mine is sleeper status. You know, like I said, these cars, like be it a manual, be it a CVT, if you have E85 available to you, that is going to give you if you get tuned for it, that's going to give you the most power for the car without having to do anything else to it. The rest of it is all like optional. If you want to add additional cooling with like an intercooler, charge pipe, oil cooler, that sort of thing, that's cool. That's fine and dandy. Like my car, if you pop the hood, the only thing you're going to see under that engine bay, you're going to see my Grimspeed intake, you're going to see the charge pipe, and that's it. And like an upgraded battery. Unless you
You
take
got a
the
stock
bump.
intercooler?
What's that?
You have a stock intercooler still?
No, I still got a Grimspeed intercooler.
Oh, okay.
But I'm
I
like,
thought you said okay.
but aside from the Grimspeed intercooler and charge pipe, you open my engine bay, all you're going to see is like the Grimspeed like appearance, like the fender shrouds or whatever and stuff like that. But the rest of it's going to look bone stock.
Have you had any issues with your CVT?
The only issue I had happened about almost a month ago, and that when I was getting my doing my oil change, I noticed I had a pan seal leak, which seems to be kind of prevalent because talking to the one dude in our group, Gerald from Canada, the one who's the crazy dude who like pretty much dropped his CVT, did everything, changed solenoids, everything.
Oh yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, like he's got some brass balls doing that, but I give him props for doing that. And like talking with him, he's like, yeah, oh yeah, he's like, that pan seal, it comes with the tiniest little amount of bead of sealant around the pan from the factory. So he's like, I'm not surprised that leaked there. But like when I took it in, the good thing about, it all determines like about your dealership and your service advisor. I went in there, my advisor, his name was Nate. He knew all about this leak thing. He's like, oh yeah, it's like this isn't the first time I've heard about it. There's different kinds. If it's a front pump seal leak, we'll fix that. If it's a pan seal, we'll fix that. He's like, the only one we can't fix, and he's like, would be a new transmission is if the rear seal is leaking. And he's like, that's a very uncommon one. He's like, it can happen, but it's not as common. So like going in when I had mine done, it was an easy process because the dude already knew everything that was going on. I didn't even really have to I told him about the TSB, but he already knew about it, which made my life a lot easier because it's like, okay, this guy knows what's going on. This is going to be easy. And he's like, straight up, he's like, if it's a rear seal, He's like, I'll get you a brand new transmission. No big deal. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it really just depends like where you go, how well those advisors know about this issue, stuff like that is going to determine how well it's going to go for you.
And you definitely said one of the key things is there getting to know someone and that person knowing your car. But the point I was getting at is, getting to know your car. How many times do you take your WRX and drag race somebody? A WRX.
All right,
How many times do you take a WRX all-wheel drive, even with your E85, and you drag race
I'm
somebody?
going to tell you straight up right now, zero. I was like,
And why is that?
well, I'm going to tell you, first of all, I'm like, I'm 40 years old for one. I'm like, I fly UAVs for the Air Force as a civilian pilot. I was like, I go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning and drive all the way to Creech Air Force Base. I don't know if if you've been to Creech. If you know Creech, it's in the middle of freaking nowhere. There's
Nowhere,
no,
nowhere.
there's no one out there. I drive 47 miles one way to work through the desert. I'll be lucky if I see 3 cars at 3 a.m. My car is set on cruise control at freaking 75, 80 miles an hour, and I'm trying to stay awake. I was like,
So basically, you're driving on a drag strip all the time.
yeah, by myself with no one else around. Trying to like navigate and look out, make sure there's no wild horses, burros, or anything else trying to cross the highway.
So my point is to that is because I've gotten my car up to, well, recently it's 230, but 230 horses with 250 pounds of torque, and I know I can get myself up to 300 now that I fixed some things, or at least close. But the funny thing is, I always get these guys that are like, "Oh, I want to get 345 and 3 whatever," and I'm like, "Okay, great." So you're gonna get a car, WRX, STI, whatever, with 400 or 500 horses, and you're gonna drive to work. You're gonna
Yep,
go get milk. You're gonna go on a date, right? And you got
exactly.
400 or 500, and you got this Hemi that comes up next to you, and you got a couple of red lights in front of you.
Yeah, it's like it's
Let's go.
pointless. Yeah, it's
Right?
totally
Exactly.
pointless. That's the biggest.
And me, I'm fine with 300.
Yeah,
I'm fine with 300. And you know what? I can get to the next light, and I could take a Hemi. I could take, and I'm
yeah.
not saying I can beat him. I'll have my little fun. I can
Mm-hmm.
go up against a Dodge Challenger or whatever and have fun. I think it's actually Challenger that no matter what, he steps on it and he's gone. Like one guy, one Challenger came up to me, or was it Charger? Which one's a really wide one? It's Challenger,
That's
right?
Challenger. Yeah,
Yeah, Challenger. I knew he had. I know what Challengers have. I'm like, yo, you're nothing but muscle. I can't do anything. And he's like, I want to play with you. And I'm like, all right, cool. I made the noise. I didn't even try. I just went and I let go of the gas where it did the flutter noise. And he stepped on it, and all I saw was smoke coming off his rear tire as he's pulling away from me. I was like,
yeah.
I'm not even gonna try. But a Charger, a GT Mustang
Mm-hmm.
that apparently is not really a GT, I take those guys and we have fun all the time.
Yeah.
I get to the next light and I win or whatever, no big deal. But I don't need to have 400 and 500 horses. You should be happy with 300. Not to mention the WRX is not built to drag.
Not at all. And that is the biggest, like, honestly, like, talking about that whole power thing and everything. It's like for me, it's like, yeah, my drive to work, I don't have any traffic. But when I come home in the afternoon, if you live in a city, like I'm sure where you live, the DC metro area,
Yes.
if you live in Vegas, or just like, and I spend time between, I spend half my time in Vegas, half my time in Los Angeles. And I can tell you right now, driving a manual in LA, you couldn't pay me to do that. You cannot pay me. I don't care how cool you may think you are, but you're going to burn that clutch out within a year because you're going to be constantly going from first to neutral in the afternoon when you get stuck in traffic.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I gotta say, when I first moved out here to the DC area, I ran into this guy at the gym, and he had a red WLX. I had a white one. He was like, "Oh man, I've seen your channel. I like what you did, but I got a manual." I'm like, "All right, cool." He's like, "Oh, I like your car. I can't believe how fast it's zippy and everything." So we swapped cars for a minute, and we were like, "Oh, cool." So I know I first drove stick. The reason why I got
Yeah.
a CVT was because I'm married, and if I want to have a night where I drink and my wife is with me, whatever, she doesn't like stick. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna make sure that both of us are happy. And being military, I'm Air Force myself,
Yeah.
and if I'm gone for 7 months, I need her to move the car. I don't want her to scrape the rims, or if she needs to literally drive the car, I
Mm.
need to make sure that she can drive a car with no problem. Automatic is
Exactly.
the way. Fine, I get it. I like stick, but hey, family first, right?
Yep.
Anyway, the
Exactly.
thing is, me and this guy, we go out in his car, and he's like, "Hey, dude, by the way, I got this banging noise every time I drive my stick shift." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I change gears and I hear a bang, and I change gears and I hear a metal banging noise. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, okay. And he's like, I bought this new, or new used, whatever. It was
Yeah.
used to him. And he said he swapped out the clutch in the first year,
Hmm.
and he thinks he needs to swap out the clutch again, and he's only had the car for like 2 years. And I'm like, that
That's not.
doesn't make any. That's not right. Yeah. So I was sitting here, and this guy's in his mid to late 20s. All right,
Hmm.
and I'm like, hey, let's go take a test drive real quick. Let me see you drive your car. So we find an empty road, and he drives, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna step on it. I'm like, all right, cool. Literally by almost third gear, I was holding onto my head, and I just said, stop, please. And I was like, I know what the problem is. And we weren't friends after this, but I told him, it's you. You can't drive. He was dumping the clutch and shifting it
Oh
in
God.
each gear, causing the clutch to bang. So it was metal
Yeah.
on metal. And he was like, well, what about rev matching? You're going in a straight line.
Yeah.
You're dumping the clutch before you pop it in gear. So he was burning out and smacking all the metal parts underneath and
Uh-huh.
everything. I mean, the drivetrain, you get my point. Everything
Yeah.
underneath was just metal banging, and he was doing it on aggressive points. Not to mention, he was shifting to race at 3,000 RPMs.
Wow.
So he was like, "What do you mean? How am I hurting my car?" And I said, "All right, let's pull over. Let me get out your car, and I'm gonna get to 60 before I even hit third gear." and so, and by the time I hit third gear, he's like, "I barely felt you change gears,"
Yep.
and I drive a CVT, and it's. Before you start talking smack and before you start, whatever, do you know how to drive your stick
Exactly.
shift?
And that,
Do
and
you
that,
know?
yep. And the
Go ahead,
biggest
go ahead.
and the biggest thing with that is like all these manual like purists. A lot of them you're gonna find out are like 18 to 25-year-old kids who just want to like get a stick, but they have no clue how to drive it, and they think they do, and then they do end up doing what that guy did, and they have no idea what they're doing. They just want it, like the cool factor of I have a manual, but yet they have no clue how it works.
And you know what? I'll be honest, man. Look, swallow your pride. If you don't know how to drive, if you don't know how you're doing something, ask somebody. See if somebody else knows. Because
Exactly.
I've had to do that a lot of times, even with my car. I'm like, I have no problem telling somebody, hey, why did my intercooler break my car? And they're like, where'd you buy it? Bought it in China. This guy I met online, he's like, hey, we build them for the Chinese version or the Japanese
Mm-hmm.
version. And next thing I know, the guy, that's I had the issue where that's why I bought my Grimspeed intercooler. They were
Yeah.
like, "You're overheating the internals," and I just put this motor in. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I
Like, oh
literally put it
god.
on the credit card. It's like, yeah, I said, yeah. Dan from Mach 5, when I got my tune, I said it in the video. He was like, "Hey, your internal after the what is it? The intake manifold, the temps, right?" He was like, "Hey, you're hitting like 150 and above every time we do a pull." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." It's 200 degrees internal in the motor, and he's like, no, that's not supposed to be that high. It's supposed to be like 1 to 110 every time you do a pull.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, ooh, shit. And he was like, yeah, so everything in your car looks right. Everything is put where it's supposed to be. We know what everything is. We just don't know what this intercooler is. We don't know what vital is, so we can't tell you what's going on. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well that tells me something.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, the air is going this way, and this right here, where it goes into your car from the manifold, it's hotter than hell, and we're not gonna blow your motor up. So, and I'm like, oh, well, how about I change that? And there
Yeah.
you go. And I have no problem telling him thank you, I appreciate it. I spent more money, but you know what? Now I get to keep my car longer, and I can push it to another limit.
Yep.
So, another advice there: swallow your pride. If you don't know
Yep.
what you're talking about, ask for help, or just say, all right, cool, tell me what did I do wrong and how can I fix it, or how can I learn. By the way, want to give a quick shout out to Aaron. He's got, what is it, corn-fed performance. So anybody watching this video, corn-fed performance, if you use the code Guzman on your next order, where he can apply it, 10% off your product. So you'll get 10% off if you use the code Guzman when you check out. Buy something from Corn Fed Performance. He's got Subaru parts on there, so put it in your shopping cart. Then put in the discount code Guzman, Guzman. If you're watching this video and if it applies, it gives you 10% off. So, and the reason why I say that is like, some products like Pure and Grimspeed or whatever, they aren't allowed giving discounts or whatever because they're too big or something. I don't know what. But either way, you got a 10% coupon for watching this video, this chat. I'd like to do it a lot more or periodically, whatever, Dave. I know you're a busy guy since you said, you're working for the Air Force, UAV pilot and stuff. That's got to be awesome. How are you liking it?
Oh, it's a fun job. It's like it's real life Call of Duty every day, kinda, for the most part.
Okay, you're gonna have to expand if you can to a certain degree. Call of Duty players, man, really should they try it? Should they try and go for it? Be a UAV pilot?
Honestly, if this younger generation that's good with video games likes playing like Call of Duty and all that stuff, I say go. Like, if you really want to get into that and a career into that, go into the Air Force and go be a sensor operator or go be a UAV pilot. I was like, you'll do perfect in that because that's the environment you're going to be in. So, I mean, I highly recommend it. If anyone wants to do that, definitely look into being a sensor operator. Or if you want to go the officer route, look into being a pilot, RPA pilot.
Well, I heard enlisted can go be RPAs as well,
Yeah, I heard they're starting a program for that.
which is pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
you can get your wings as an enlisted airman and be a pilot. So, but that's awesome. So you got a 2019. I always thought you had like a 2017. I got a 2016 with all the bells and whistles. See, so you highly promote the E85. I'm still on 93. So what kind of horsepower are you pushing?
On mine, through my tune with M Tune, I'm probably pushing. We guesstimated probably around the 330 wheel horsepower range, and about between 320 and 330 torque.
So you went E-tune.
Yes.
How did you come to your horsepower rating?
What we did, well, when Mike did mine, like, here's the thing: when you E-tune, to try to, like, they can kind of guesstimate based off your mods and what the logs look like, and give you a guesstimate. Like, I know a lot of E-tuners, like, M Tune, like Ambot Tune. You see those virtual dyno graphs. A lot of the times these tuners don't like to do that for guys because it is a pain in the ass, because you have to give them, okay, what size tires do you have? What size wheels do you have? Do you have a subwoofer? How much does that weigh? How much do you weigh? And they have to put it. It's not just like using that virtual dyno program you can download off the internet. They have to put in all these different calculations, look at different things from the log to come up with that range to give you that guesstimate of where you're at. So that's why they don't always like to do it for every single tune, because for one, you're E-tuning, you probably got like 40 or 50 tunes going on at once for people. It's hard to like take an hour or so trying to figure out like putting all these things in, because it takes away from tuning other people.
Cool. So I actually, as me always trying to save money doing things myself, I tried downloading the stupid software, couldn't figure it out. Then I was like, well, maybe I should learn how to tune. You know what? Yeah, with computer programming and all that stuff, that tuning stuff. Look, those guys are safe from me. I'm not gonna take their job, and I'm not gonna try and do it myself at home. So
And
that's
there's a lot
awesome.
involved into it, especially with like the CVT, because you know a lot of it's not, you have those three SI drive modes. You got intelligent, sport sharp. You have all those different torque tables and everything like that. Those tuners adjust everything based on your throttle percentage, your boost, wastegate, duty cycle, all that stuff. So like what a lot of guys don't realize is like with the CVT, you actually have three mini tunes in one because of the three different modes.
Okay, so that's an interesting topic we can get into. So when you drive your car, what are you driving in?
I use all three modes, to be honest. Like in the morning, when I leave at like 3 o'clock in the morning,
Hmm.
I'm all about conserving fuel. Like I said, I drive. It's 47 miles one way to Creech Air Force Base from my house, and gas right now here in Vegas is almost $4 a gallon for premium. And out here we only have 91 octane, which is, I'll get into later, which is another reason why I went with an E30 tune. So like for me, I'm trying to milk as much gas mileage as I can going to and from work. Now when I get back into the city, like hit the hot, like, then I'll put it in sport if I need to like get around people quick and stuff like that. For like the city streets, I'll use Sport Sharp. And the only reason I like Sport Sharp is it has If you use Sport Sharp and turn the traction control off, and your tuner is really good, he can make that thing feel and simulate like a dual clutch transmission. It'll go through those 8 ratios really smooth, and you'll have good throttle response.
See, I've never heard of that at all. See, me, yeah, it's all city driving here. So when I'm doing 90, I'm passing people. I'm like checkerboarding, and I don't like to do that a lot. Because here it's like you get on one accident, you're screwing up 3 other highways. And not to
Yep.
mention, I'm not saying accidents are a good thing to get into in the first place. So either way, point is that so when I did do my E-tune with Clark Turner Tuning, I think he did fine with what I got. I think my next tune is going to be from Mach 5, and then I'll try an Ambot one. But it's because I want to do my dyno one because Mach 5, because I actually got my baby on a treadmill and somebody was physically there to tell me. Because the one thing that Clark wasn't able to tell me, and I don't know if he saw it or not, was the fact that I was sending hot air into the internals. I don't know if that's just because of, he only wanted certain data logs, so he had a small window of what he was looking at. If I
Mm-hmm.
take it to a shop, they've got the guy sitting on a laptop, and I know that he's going to turn it on and he's going to see everything. Yes, he can still turn off certain things, but because they're a shop and the customer's going to come back, I'm pretty sure that's why they were able to see everything, because the boss is over his shoulder saying, hey, look at
Mm-hmm.
everything, and then go back and tone it down or whatever. But either way, the point is, um, when I drive, I always leave it in sport mode, and when I want to save fuel, sort of, I have it in manual mode. So I just sit there and I can control how I'm shifting gears or whatever, if I'm being aggressive or not. When I put it in intelligent mode, though, I've noticed that I get more black dots on my back end of the car. I get all the carbon and all that
Mm-hmm.
fuel, whatever mixture, right? But it also bogs down the car, So I only see like 1 or 2 mile difference of it holding itself back. So I don't use that as much, because when I put it in back into sport mode, the car just starts killing fuel. It starts killing all that crap that was just being
Yeah.
pulled back or something. It just feels different. Now, if I put it into sharp mode, it's like you just let the horse go wild, you know. So you step on it and it just wants to start popping gears.
Mm-hmm.
So I live in sport mode and sport mode manual,
Mm-hmm.
because I also felt like, if you're switching back and forth, you're also killing your fuel anyway. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, unless you kill whatever, 200-300 miles, the fuel, the whole full tank in intelligent mode, then yeah, you're going to get the most mileage. But in the, let's just say 200 miles of a full tank, you do 50 miles in intelligent, then you do the rest in sport and sport sharp, your fuel math is going to go down because, well, you're having more fun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you, like you said, you got like 50 miles worth of track you got to finish,
Yeah.
and you're doing it in intelligent mode cruising. So that's pretty interesting. I've seen a couple of questions on your page also about the some people asking, hey, do you drive in sharp or do you drive in sport mode? So that's another topic that it was pretty cool to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, it just depends. Like I said, every tuner is going to tune differently. They're going to have their own tweaks, their own things. The way M-Tune does things is going to be different from the way Ambot does things, is going to be different from the way Clark Tuning does things. Everybody has their own little way that they like to do things, especially for the CVT and how it's set up. I know, like, for me personally, when I did my E-Tune with M-Tuned, we did all the pool, like all the majority of the pools and everything for power in Sport Sharp Force in manual mode.
So how? Okay, so talk to me about your process of working with M-Tune to get your tune done.
Oh, this is great. Like, I found out about M-Tune from Aaron probably would have been last January. So I was like, okay, cool. I went, the first year of my car was bone stock, whatever. It was my, like I said, first car since I was 16 years old, nothing but trucks prior. So, of course, the WRX is going to feel fast because my previous car had, was a 4Runner with 35-inch tires on it and lifted on suspension and everything. So it was a slug. So
Nice.
going to the WRX, yeah, of course it felt fast right away. But then after a while, it's like, I'm just gonna, I told myself I'm gonna just stay stock. I'm not gonna modify my car. Yeah, right. That lasted like maybe a month. So
Right.
once I did like appearance mod stuff like that, then I started looking into tuning, and I talked to Ambot, and I'm like, Anthony's a friend. I like Anthony. He's a cool dude. And, Aaron introduced me to Mike, and, Mike and I got to talking, and I was like, Mike seemed like a really nice guy. So the first thing I did with him is, I bought his OTS tune. And I was like, okay, let me just do his OTS tune, see how I like it, go from there. Had that for a while. It was great, no problems. Then I was like, okay, let's do a just simple stage 1 tune. So I did a stage 1 E tune with him. And then, as Mike and I got to talking, similar interests, hobbies, and stuff like that, aside from cars, we became good friends. And I asked him, I was like, what do you recommend for me to get the most out of my car, like performance-wise, without having to, like, do crazy stuff? And he's like, do you have E85 available to you in Las Vegas? So I went online, looked it up, and, a couple, only like 4 or 5 stations and relatively nearby me. And he's like, well, the biggest thing is it going to be convenient for you? Because you don't want to have to drive 30, 40 minutes out of the way to get gas. If it's convenient for you going to and from work to the house, go for it. So, he's like, I recommend, if you go E30, he's like, you're going to get over 300 wheel horsepower and torque just off this fueling alone without needing to slap a J-pipe or anything else on your car. So I was like, all right. I was like, let's do that. And he's like, the other thing is 91 octane, it's straight piss water gas. There's no denying it. You guys are very lucky to have 93 octane, because 91 gas, especially if you live in Arizona, California, or Nevada, it sucks. You get constant, like, guys out here in our local club in the summertime, people always complain about dam drop. I've seen dudes out here posting on our group with dam drops down to like 0.325, 0.22 something. Our pump gas is just that bad. So like,
wow.
going E30 just for the fuel, the benefits of fueling and like avoiding dam drop and like any kind of like fine knock learn or anything like that was completely worth it. Not just for the power, but just for having better fueling.
Wow. So yeah. So he just what was the process like? He just sent you the map, or you guys got on a chat and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go drive my car.
Yep. He would send. What he did is like, you go on his site. You'll fill out what kind of mods you have. You'll have different like little parameters for you to select or whatever. He sends you your base map. Typically with mine, like, it starts out like every E-tune pretty much the same. They start out by having you do like a 5-minute idle with the AC on, with the AC off. The tuner will adjust your idle, get that done. Then you'll do a cruise log, and you'll just cruise around. So the biggest thing with e-tuning that takes the longest, and it kind of sometimes drives guys crazy, is having the tuner dial in your fueling. That's what takes the most time in the tune, is dialing in your fueling. Once that's done, doing the power stuff is easy. That's the end. But it's just dialing in the idle, dialing in the fueling. That's what takes the most time.
Interesting. I had a different experience with Clark Turner Tuning, so I remember I had to do. I got an email, and he gave me the instructions. I did the cruise. I did an idle thing, and pull back and forth, and emailing back and forth, and he gave me his phone number to text message him when it was done. So we were able to, email back and forth. Like, all right, did the map. Here's the recording. Here's the log. Send me back, and by the end of the day, I'd have my maps done and everything. And it's been a while since I've had a tune, so. But I've definitely been interested in M-Tune. I've heard of M-Tune. I've heard of course, Ambot. But Ambot, man, he's blowing up, man. He's driving Lamborghinis and working on them, and then Subarus and whatever. I'm like, apparently he's good at tuning.
Yeah. Well, Anthony's riding that Dogecoin life right now.
Oh yeah. He's been posting that. By the way, cryptocurrency is a real thing.
Yeah. He's a good dude. Like I said, I know a lot of people like to talk trash against other tuners, and everybody has their favorites. Like I said, Anthony's a friend. He's a good dude. I like him. Mike is like family to me. Him and I we BS about everything. I mean, even though I've been tuned for over a year with him, I mean, we still talk about other stuff. Because the biggest thing, like, with him is, you tune all day. You don't want to talk. Like, do you like coming home and talking to your friends about your job after you've worked all day? No. So him and I, we BS about, like, electric bikes, everything, jet skis, like, all kinds of stuff like that. So like we've always stayed in constant communication and stuff like that, even after the tune was over, and became really good friends.
Awesome. Well, look, we've been jibber jabbering for about 45 minutes, so I think people have probably sped through most of this stuff, if not, if they've seen the whole thing. But again, if you want to get a 10% discount on some Subi parts, go on over to cornfed.com. Let me see, what is this website? Let me make sure I say it right, man, because this guy's helping us out too. So cornfedperformance.com. Put something in the cart for your Subi, put in the discount code Guzman, Guzman, and see if you get a 10% discount, which you should. Yeah, that's thanks to Aaron. Aaron's hooking us up since we're doing this awesome thing. And Dave, I want to say thank you for your group. Thank you for your time. I want to do this again. And guys, if you like it, please comment below. Thumbs up. Tell us what you think. If you got a question for Dave, put it in the comments below. And I'll put a link in our description again for the Facebook group page if you got a WRX CVT. I don't know. You got anything to say to the peoples?
Yeah, I want to touch on the biggest thing that people were probably going to ask, especially with CVT leaks. Here's the deal with it. It's not the end of the world. And here's what you need to do. Even though some people think it is, the easiest way, and I tell people to check on this, is like, a lot of people don't do their own oil changes. They'll have the dealer do it. They'll have stuff like that. I would just say if you're having the dealer do it or you're not doing it yourself, when they have the car up in the air, just have them look at it. Have them look at your trans, see if it's wet, see if the pan's wet, or like if you have a jack and jack stands at home, just jack the car up real quick, be safe about it and do it the correct way. And just look under it. The easiest way to monitor it is when you're doing your oil change. I'm not saying you need to go out there every single week and look at it, but as long as you're periodically keeping tabs on it, you're fine. Because if you catch it early and they reseal it, the chances of it coming back are very slim. The problem is like with Chris's issue, he had it, he let the dealer know about it. The dealer kind of blew him off, and he went an entire year with the CVT leak. Well, if you go an entire year with the CVT leak, yeah, of course your internals, your trans are going to start going out. But like I said, it's don't rack your brain over it. Just periodically check it and make sure it's good. And like I said, doing it at the oil change interval is a good interval to do it at. Or if you notice something funky when you're driving, make sure you go check it out right away. But don't freak out over it.
And yeah, once it gets done, that CVT cooler, get that professionally installed if you don't know what you're doing. That's my
Absolutely.
FYI on that. Oh my God, I don't know if you saw my video on that one. That was a 3-part.
I talked to Chris about that today too, because he has to take his off when they put his new trans in. That's part of the deal. And I told him, I was like, when you put your cooler back on, I was like, here's the deal with hose clamps and barbs. You want them to be snug. You don't want them to be loose. You don't want them to be tight. Because if you ever look at like trusses on a bridge, what happens in the summertime? They expand. What happens in the wintertime? They contract. It's the same thing with hose clamps. If you put them on too tight in the wintertime, those lines are going to like compress and you can like crack the line or it can bust off. And if you put them on too loose in the summertime and the heat expands it, they'll pop off. So you want them to be snug. That's the key.
And my problem was, well, of course, because a motor, it vibrates, and I had it too tight, and that vibration just caused it to shear itself off.
Yep.
So, and I don't know, something about hydraulics and tubes and clamps and stuff like that, we don't get along. And, I did nothing wrong in putting it together, I guess, if you want to say that, but actually clamping it down, I didn't know that a hose clamp was that damn technical, because I kept asking people, okay, what are the pounds? Like everything else has, 10 pounds of torque, 22 pounds of torque, whatever, 8 pounds of torque. And these they were like, just enough. It's like, well, what's just enough? I don't know. I don't want this thing to slip off. So I'm just, until it stops, I'm going to go. So,
yeah, I was lucky.
Anyway.
I was lucky enough when I had mine done. I did it over at a buddy's house, and he's a retired, like, 25-year senior master sergeant aircraft mechanic. So he's like,
oof.
So he was well experienced with hose clamps and like doing stuff like that. And he's like, you want it snug. He's like, trust me, I've learned this the hard way as an airman way back when. You don't want to over crank it or else that's when things can go bad. I was like, all right, cool, man. It makes sense to me.
Shit, that didn't work out for me.
And I guess the last thing we should really say, like, because I know people are going to ask this, like, about the and like being tuned and modded, and like I'm just going to touch on Chris's experience because I'm sure a lot of people want to like know about this. Here's the biggest thing I suggest: if you're tuned and you have a CVT leak and you're going to the dealer, leave your access port at home. If you have one of those vent mounts, take the vent mount out, put your old vent back in, just take it completely off, go in there, explain to the advisor exactly what's going on. If they don't ask about mods or anything, you know, your chances are going to be pretty good. I'm like, my car, you know, they could lift it up. They could see I have a full Tome. It looks like I have a Tome J pipe because I have that intermediate pipe and a catback. So I have a titanium exhaust going all the way to the, you know, the first cat or whatever. They didn't say anything about that. Like I said, the less you can look modded and go in and give them any excuse, the better it'll be. And like in the instance of Chris, you know, if you do get denied, I told Chris, I was like, here's what you need to do. I was like, you need to call Subaru of America. If his first representative he got, the guy was a complete dick to him. Pretty much told him, you know, you're SOL, you know, you're tuned, we're not going to do this. And I told him, don't give up there. Ask for that guy's boss. Get the regional. Subaru is broken down by regions. So he got this nice lady who was from the, you know, the regional manager of Subaru of America. And, you know, he explained that, you know, her the whole situation, you know, how he got his service advisor quit, but didn't tell him he quit, had this car for 3 weeks, you know, and explained everything.
3 weeks.
Explained everything. Oh, yeah, he went through the runaround.
I didn't catch all of that. It was a long one, so I'm sorry. I had other things I needed
his car
to do.
was there for 3 weeks. And it's like, and I told him, I was like, just explain everything to this lady. Explain, you know, that, you know, this leak is a problem. I'm like, I'm sure she's aware of it at her level of management. And it's like, you know, you love, like, just tell her, be like, you love Subaru and you want to have faith in this brand and everything. And be like, would they be willing to do a one-time goodwill replacement? You know, if you put the car back to stock, would they be willing to do that? And turns out, yeah, it worked out for them. They said, hey, you know what? We're going to one-time goodwill this transmission for you. The only thing we're going to need you to buy is like an ECM and a TCM. But aside from that, he's like, we'll give you a brand new transmission.
Wow.
So like I said, if you get denied by one person at Subaru of America, go to the next level, go to their boss and explain it. Because 9 times out of 10, like you said, Subaru, they're all about customer service. They want to keep customers. They're going to more than likely help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing out here happened, buddy, with this 2019 STI. Ran the thing completely out of oil on a 2019. You know, they tried to like come back and say it was his fault for abusing the motor and stuff when the inspector came out. You know, he called Subaru America, talked to him, and they said, okay, we'll do a one-time goodwill. You know, we just need you to pay $2,000 and we'll pay the rest. Which I think an STI motor from Subaru with labor is like $15,000 or something like that. So like, so $2,000, that's not a bad deal for a brand new motor, clutch, everything.
Yeah.
So like I said,
clutch too,
and a clutch too.
Wow.
So like I said, even if they tell you no, ask to speak to somebody else. And if you like try to like say, hey, you know, I want to buy like you know, I was looking to buy a future like Crosstrek or Ascent or something like that, but you know, I want to make sure Subaru has my back, you know, long term, stuff like that. It's all about the approach and how you approach them. If you know how to sweet talk them and approach them the right way, chances are they're going to help you 9 times out of 10.
Kill them with kindness.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's leave it there so that we have something to talk about on the next one. Let's see how everybody likes this. So I'm Guzman, Jonathan Guzman. This is Guzman's Random Review. It's the first ever. I don't know. I'm gonna spitball out there. Let's call it Straight Pipe for Straight Talk. What do you think? You like that title? Straight Talk.
That
Straight
works
Pipe
for me, man.
All right, sure. Why not? Maybe the EPA won't try and shut us down for it. That'll be a different topic because I know you got a whole bunch of information on that too.
We got a ton on that.
All right, Dave, I'm going to stop it here, but stick around. And the rest of y'all, thanks for watching. Thumbs up, thumbs down if you like it. Don't like it, subscribe, and see you on the next video.